Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of Magic Mites, proudly sponsored by our Patreon supporters and CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day, and our co-sponsor CardHoarder.com, offering the best inventory prices and delivery of cards for Magic Online. I am Evan Irwin, and we get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Erin Campbell.
Hey everybody.
Reuben Bressler.
Wow, you pulled it together.
You
For
did.
the intro. What a pro. The great ones play hurt, everybody. And Evan's playing hurt this week. I'm sorry that you're feeling under the weather, but when you started the intro, I was really hoping for like a real hello everybody. But then you came out like Mr. Orange. That was awesome.
Thanks. I do what I can.
Oranges have vitamin C, which are good when you're sick.
Right.
There you go.
I got that from Reader's Digest. Yeah.
Well, I went and got me the itis, or whatever, from Vegas, but I'm getting better. I have meds now, and I'm on the mend.
Good.
But I'm not feeling very well this evening. That said, we also get started with our Trumpet Blast. You can get one if you support us at our highest level on Patreon. Reuben, what's our Trumpet Blast this week?
Our Trumpet Blast this week comes from Jay Bryan, who writes, coming to you live from deep inside Evan Irwin's immune system, the T-cells, lymphocytes, and adorable babies at Paragon City Games in Draper, Utah, are hammering away at making sure Mr. Orange can't get a non-congested word in edgewise this week after his trip to the desert for Grand Prix Vegas.
Oh, man.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Timely and relevant.
So timely. Well, we kick it off with the first pick and the giveaway. The giveaway being a $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com because I am highly original. But I promise we will give away a full box of M19 on the week of release. It's a little weird that we're showing all of the, like, we have 1 week of previews, and the pre-release is technically 2 weeks before the pre-release.
Yeah.
That's a little weird for me.
Okay.
Pre-release is not this coming weekend. It's the one after, right?
No, it's the one after that. It's like July 7th or whatever.
Okay, wow.
And I'm like, wow, that's really a long time from now.
Yeah.
That's odd. That said, link is in the chat for those who are looking for it. Whew, all right. Well,
yeah, by the way, we're going to have a slightly shorter episode this week so that Evan can go to bed. Sorry that we aren't going to have our usual long banter, but we're going to do our best to make sure that Evan doesn't die before the end of this episode.
Although if you do, I'll bring you back.
That's
there
right.
You go.
I will be resurrected once again. I only really get sick about once a year. Last year I got the flu around February, and I think we may have skipped a show around then. And we're here tonight because I was not going to let the opportunity to provide a preview for M19 go by.
Speaking of resurrections.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Well, and this is the cool thing, because when we first got our preview for M19, and you'll see it here in a minute, it's a Planeswalker, as we've discussed, but it's very specific. This is a very, and much like, honestly, a lot of stuff in M19 is incredibly specific. Like,
it is.
Like, here's a scalpel, there's like a little thing that screws up this deck or that deck. And
honestly, that's kind of what we were missing for a little while, that whole time when we were like, it's been a year and a half since we've had a Pithing Needle. It's been a year and a half since we had a Tormod's Crypt. It's been a year and a half since we had a timely reinforcements. All these things that you can put that are like generic answers. And it seemed like Wizards of the Coast was like, yeah, we hear you. Here's 100 of them.
Yeah, so there's
for
definitely
M19.
There's definitely a tribal vibe to M19. And as a result, we have a sort of very tribal Planeswalker. And Erin, I'll go ahead and let you tell the whole world what our preview, our free preview from Wizards. Thank you very much, Wizards. We paid $0 for this one.
Absolutely none.
Hashtag not sponsored.
Hashtag not exactly sponsored, but provided. So
yeah.
I'll bring it up on the screen now. Erin, please tell us what Liliana Untouched by Death does.
I would be happy to. So Liliana Untouched by Death is 2/2 black. She's a legendary planeswalker. Starts off with a 4 loyalty. For +1, you can put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. If at least one of them is a zombie, each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. That's each opponent. So if you're playing EDH or Two-Headed Giant, that particular bit of text is very relevant to you. At -2, you can target creature gets -X until end of turn, where X is the number of zombies you control. We saw something like this back in Shadows over Innistrad, the Dark Salvation card, which also gave a -X effects, X effects, Rex and effects based on the number of zombies that were on the board, which is very trademark Liliana. And the ultimate, if you could call it that, because it's a little underwhelming, is at -3, you can just cast zombies from your graveyard this turn, which if you're playing a card like this, you probably already have a lot of zombies at your disposal, and this just lets you cast them from the graveyard. And zombies tend to be pretty inexpensive, so by the time you're able to use the ultimate, you should have a good bit of mana on the board, and you should be able to, refill the battlefield with things that died. And so I love this. I'm so happy that we got this, and Planeswalker cards don't go to just anybody, so it's a huge honor that we were chosen, and especially to get an awesome Planeswalker like Liliana. I'm really excited to see what this card can do.
It is very exciting to me that, first of all, it does protect itself. That's very important. Secondly, go look at all the zombies that are in the core set so far. Just the ones that they've shown you. Like, these are very powerful, impactful cards that definitely will be played in a zombie deck. I think Wizards wants a zombie deck to exist. I feel like they're pushing goblins as well. There's definitely sort of tribal elements. And this Planeswalker in particular is incredibly unique in that it just focuses on zombies. That's all I care about. This is Liliana's thing. This is her stuff. She's going to play them from the graveyard. She's going to kill you because she has them. She's going to put them in her graveyard so she can get them back later. Like, this is a really sweet Planeswalker. 4 mana that starts with 4 loyalty and immediately goes to 5. You should have time to play a couple zombies before she gets out anyway to either kill something or fuel her further. This card is really sweet.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I also... Oh, sorry.
No, I
just wanted to give a shout out to the artist, Bastian Deharme. I probably slaughtered that, but he's the young man who also did the most recent version of Animate Dead, sort of the Sun Titan that's been purpleized and kind of coming back. And you can see shades of that in the artwork of this too, which I really, really love. And kudos to giving him a Planeswalker, and he really knocked it out of the park.
Absolutely, and this is
very nice.
And some people would note that maybe this is a depowering of Planeswalkers in the chat here. I'm not sure I necessarily agree with that, because this to me is a very specific Planeswalker.
Focused,
and I'm okay with that. The fact that this Planeswalker goes in a certain deck, you can't just put it in anything. Jace just goes in any blue deck and is good. Liliana has to go in a deck that is made for her.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. This is a lot more like the way that they design things like Sarkhan. A lot more tribal of a strategy, and I think that the pieces are in place to have this one be a very powerful card. You've got Graveyard Marshal in this set, you've got Death Baron, you've got Stitcher's Apprentice early on to be able to fill up your graveyard, to be able to get more options, because you've got sort of that, what was the snake that milled you every time it entered the battlefield or attacked? It has sort of that sort of ability to it, and as a 4-drop, it's really a good top of the curve for those style of tribal decks, especially for zombies, most of which have 2 toughness, and so they survive a Goblin Chain Whirler, and most of which don't die or don't mind dying over and over and over again, and so you're able to sort of gunk up the board state. We've already seen a mono black zombies win a Pro Tour in the past in the hands of Jerry Thompson. This seems like a very powerful tool for that, and I'm very excited, not only for this card in particular. I think that this card has a chance to be quite good, not just because it starts at 4, goes up to 5, is able to protect itself, and has a relevant quote-unquote ultimate that you can theoretically use at any time. You don't need to build up to it. I just think that this is a really interesting card that can send you in a lot of good deck-building directions.
I appreciate that, like, late game, you top deck a Liliana, you -3 her, and you immediately just play some stuff from your graveyard.
Yep.
I think that's really cool. So thank you very much, Wizards. I'll bring her back on the screen one more time for Liliana Untouched by Death. Already up on Mythic Spoiler. Good job, Mythic Spoiler.
Thank you.
You guys are great. And yeah, so this is really awesome. Not every day you get a Planeswalker.
That's right.
Super cool. All right, so let's move on here to Gathering the Townsfolk. That said, let's talk a little bit about M19 Dragons. Reuben, tell us about some dragons that are coming back.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of spoilers that came out in recent weeks. We're sort of in this fire hose mode again,
Yeah.
of getting all these cards all at the same time. But we've definitely got some cool ones that were released on us this week, and one of them was Arkadys The Strategist, which is a 3/5 colorless green, white, blue Elder Dragon Planeswalker with flying and vigilance. So even without anything else, you have a 4-mana 3/5 flying vigilance creature for your your commander or your brawl leader or what have you, or even just a value. But that's not where we stop. Whenever a creature with Defender enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. And each creature you control with Defender assigns combat damage equal to its toughness rather than its power, and can attack as though it didn't have Defender. So now you have your tribal wall commander, basically.
That's awesome, by the way.
It's pretty hilarious. You can play your turn 2 Suspicious Bookcase, turn 3 Wall of Frost, turn 4 play Arkadys the Strategist and attack for 11. That's pretty great. I'm a big fan of the combination of the Panopter effect from Kaijudo and the Doran the Siege Tower effect stapled onto one at the same time. You got your assault formation, you got your big butt walls, and you're going to be hammering in for some damage with Arkadys the Strategist.
Yeah.
I like Doran the Siege Dragon, personally.
Doran the Siege Dragon is nice. I like that.
Thanks to Veg and Z for that one. This is to me is 100% a brawl/commander card, and that's totally. I mean, they gave it to Commander Cast, I think, for a reason. There's nowhere near enough good Defender cards in Standard to get anywhere near it, in my opinion. But you look through the history of Magic, and there's a ton of awesome, fun, cool, interesting Defender cards that would go absolutely perfectly with this stuff. And those who are trying to buy out Assault Formation, what is wrong with you?
Yeah,
seriously.
Bless their hearts.
Don't even bless their hearts.
No blessing.
Not even blessing.
Cut it out. What's wrong with
I'll
y'all?
bless you. It's fine.
It's so rare. There's just printing Iconic Masters. I mean, if you're going to use it, you're going to play one of it. What is wrong?
Yeah.
Oh, it's bad. That said, let's move on here to Chromium. What is it?
I'm stoked for this one, and the Vorthoses are losing their minds over this one. So Chromium is another one of the Elder Dragons that is coming back for the core set. This one is 4, a white, a blue, and a black. Legendary creature Elder Dragon with Flash, and this spell can't be countered, which screams finisher for control decks that has flying. And you can discard a card until end of turn. Chromium the Mutable becomes a human with base power and toughness 1/1, loses all abilities and gains hexproof, and it can't be blocked this turn, and normally it's a 7/7. For those who don't know, in the storyline of Chromium from the Magic story, Chromium posed in human form as a character called Ham the Tickery Man, or Ham the Tickery Man. And so this is incorporating that into the story, him turning into this character, someone falling in love with him in that character, and just sort of, this is such a deep dive, and I just, the minute this card came out, I remember a lot of the Vorthoses I follow just started spamming the Tickery, and I was like, what's the Tickery? And then I went and looked it up, and this is a thing. This is a human disguise that Chromium slipped into and had a whole story arc as this character, and I think it's wonderful.
He basically turns into an invisible stalker. You discard any card, he's invisible. Like, this is, Wizards has continued to try to be like, all right, here's your Esper finisher. It's, here's the thing that you end the game with, and then they usually, maybe it's too overcosted, it doesn't have the right stats, doesn't have the right ability. This one is just like, it's going to live. We promise it's going to live. You're going to draw a bunch of cards. You're going to make it through the night with this guy to see if you can actually make it happen. And for the story to tie in, I think that's terrific. That's just really interesting.
Historically, crypto historically, in things like Dungeons and Dragons, the blue dragons and the silver dragons and the green dragons can sort of polymorph themselves into human form, and oftentimes dragons prefer to be in human form because it's kind of tough to go under the radar as a big 7/7 dragon flying around the countryside. And it's also been borrowed by other tropes. For example, Corrin from Fire Emblem games could transform from human form into dragon form and vice versa. I think it's just a fabulous design. You're able to turn Chromium into a hexproof creature at a moment's notice, just in case you need to protect your 7/7 body. Can't be countered, has flash, great control finisher. I'm very excited for this card.
I mean, yes, it's going to die to wrath effects or settle the wreckage or whatever, but
Okay.
That's fine. You don't want something that's unstoppable. You just want it to be really good.
If your opponent has Wrath or Settle the Wreckage in after sideboard against your Esper deck that has a 7-drop 7/7, I think we're okay with that.
I think we're doing all right. Now this
We're
last
doing all
one
right.
is my favorite. Now Sarkhan was revealed today on Gathering Magic, and Sarkhan has a +1 ability. First of all, it's a 3-mana Planeswalker, which are always interesting. But it has a +1 that adds 2 mana of any color to play dragon spells. And I think this last dragon is the one that I want to play with it on turn 4. What does Palladia-Mors do, Reuben?
Palladia-Mors is a 6/6 for 6 mana. You've got your Rift. Palladia.
I say
Palladia?
Palladia.
Nevada. Dominaria. Palladia.
Agro.
How did you say it?
Agro.
No.
Oh, Palladia? I say Palladia-Mors.
Palladia. Okay. Well, whatever. Something dash Moors, the Ruiner. 3 colorless red, green, white legendary creature, Elder Dragon. Flying Vigilance Trample for your 6/6 for 6. And hexproof if it hasn't dealt damage yet, which is a lot. That is many, many keywords.
That's so cool. Also, the Sister of Nicol-Bolas.
Yes. Sister of Nicol-Bolas, and I know that typically people would retcon and go back and probably give Vivictus Osmati, who we did not talk about here because honestly it's the worst of the 5 of the Elder Dragons in terms of constructed potential. But typically if you think of a flavor text that says the most vicious dragon of her kin, you would think it'd be the Jund one. I like that they didn't retcon this because Palladia-Mors was always the most violent and angry of those dragons.
Right. Well, this is actually Naya, which is really interesting.
Absolutely.
I'll be honest. I thought this was Jund for a long time, until I was like, wait, that's a white mana symbol?
Yep.
Okay, that's fine. Flying Vigilance Trample is terrific. You don't have to tap her to deal damage, and that's good in and of itself.
Absolutely, yeah. And this is a thing that you just can't get around if you're an aggro deck, and if you have a little bit of a board presence on the defense and you drop a Palladia-Mors, your 3/3s and your 4/4s aren't attacking through Palladia-Mors until later on, after Palladia deals a little bit of damage on one side or the other. So definitely a really cool design.
Yeah, that's super cool. So we decided to pick a few cards to talk about this week per person. So, Erin, let's start with you. What cards did you choose and why?
I'm really excited about this set. We talked a little bit about that with Liliana, how there seems to be a zombie tribal theme here, which of course I'm really excited about. And one of the cards that I'm most hyped for is called Open the Graves. Open the Graves is 3 and 2 black. It's an enchantment, and it says whenever a non-token creature you control dies, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. I can hear you flipping your cards.
Oh, sorry.
And so it's basically like a Bridge from Below that you can actually cast, and it actually does things, and the art is beautiful by Vincent Prost. And I love this, the idea of just sort of killing your own things. It doesn't have the weird backlash effect like Bridge from Below has. But if you're playing a black deck, your creatures are bound to die, either naturally in combat or with your own sacrifice effects or things that you have. And so to get additional value out of a card like this is really nice. It's also insurance against sweepers. If somebody does play like a Wrath of God type effect, well, you're going to get zombies for your trouble. And I think this is really great. I definitely want to try this in my She-Ray EDH deck because a lot of what I do is just sacrificing every turn, and so to get 2/2 zombies for that is really awesome. And I just love the art with this too. And if you look really closely, shout out to my friend Peter, who mentioned you'll see this sort of procession of dead folks, almost like a dead wedding, a wedding of dead people.
Yeah.
But you see a guy sleeping against the tombstone with a frying pan.
He's not sleeping. He's hiding. He's trying to hide from the zombies with his frying pan.
Is he living? Is that a human?
That's a living human, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I thought that was just a zombie.
Oh no, I stayed too late at the graveyard. Hopefully my cast iron pan will protect me.
I thought that was just a zombie who maybe might have lost their legs or maybe just wasn't ambulatory. But it's even, now that you mention it, that's so weird, and I love it. And I'm just looking forward to this card.
It was a zombie that needed them chopped and smothered and covered, all together, had that pan ready to go.
Like your Waffle House hash browns?
Yeah, whenever I go to Waffle House, I'm a zombie after a long night of drinking. That's for sure. Of course, Erin would pick Bridge from Above as one of her cards. This card definitely has a lot of interesting potential in Standard, for sure.
I appreciate the fact that you can play multiples, and that if you have multiples out, then please kill my stuff so I can get 2/2s. Like, that seems really terrific. Again, this is another one of those, like, does this go in the zombie deck? I don't know, but there's so many pieces at different mana costs where you're like...
It's a lot of mana, but, it's a good... I mean, this is a good card to play into your opponent's, Cleansing Nova or Fumigate, so definitely like it.
Yeah, it could just very well be a sideboard card because you're, like, against very removal-heavy decks or whatever. You're like, yes, please, kill my stuff, it's fine. And you'll bring it back later. What is your other card, Aaron?
I'm actually with you here. I'm like, why? Why?
So, spoiler season is a lot like Christmas morning for most of us. We wake up every morning and we see what we missed while we were sleeping, and, time zones are a thing. And I remember waking up the other day and I ran over to the proverbial Christmas tree and I wanted to see what was waiting for me underneath.
Coal. Nothing but coal.
Coal, pretty much. A blue piece of coal, to be precise. Mistcaller? Why? Who is this for? Who wanted this? Who said we need a blue containment priest? Nobody wanted this. So Mistcaller is 1 blue. It's a creature type merfolk 1/1, and you can sacrifice it.
Oh.
You can sacrifice it, and then until end of turn, if a non-token creature would enter the battlefield and it wasn't cast, you exile it instead. So it's basically a containment priest type effect in Modern. We don't really have anything like that. It slots in really well with the Merfolk decks, who usually don't have a lot of answers for Dredge or things like that. They might bring in like a Cage or a Relic, but this is something that Merfolk is already going to be doing. They're already going to be playing creatures. This thing can get really big, so even if you don't use it, it can still just turn into a beater with Island Walk. You can also time it in such a way where if you're running either vials, you maneuver it so that you're not suffering from the downside of it. Costing 1 mana is really, really nice. The sacrifice effect is bad if you're running Bridge from Below because it exiles all of your bridges. Thanks, Wizards! Yeah. And so there's been some conversation about whether or not this is vintage playable, and I'm just like, come on.
I mean, isn't this also sort of a tool for Legacy? Doesn't this stop Sneak and Show? I mean, for Vintage, doesn't this stops Tinker? Like, this stops a lot of stupid crap.
Oath of Druids. Yeah, there's some other
applications. Show and Tell, Oath of Druids, Sneak Attack, Living End. There's a lot of interest. This is another thing that stops Murderous Redcap and Kitchen Finks, for example. There's lots of interesting things that you're going to be able to do with your Mistcaller. I assume that the professor from Solarian Community College has naked photos of somebody from inside of Wizards R&D and made them print Mistcaller. That's my assumption here, because usually I'm like, look, it's Grave Hate. You're just going to have to live with your occasional Grave Hate. This one is like, what in the world? Like, it's blue. Yeah. It's like it's a proactive card with a reactive ability that can. It's just very, very weird.
Yeah, I've seen some discussions regarding the color pie when it comes to this. Blue is not really known for like exiling things. Blue's known for like either freezing things, like either tapping things down or bouncing them or countering them. White tends to be more of the exile color when it comes to exiling creatures. Sometimes you see it with red, like we have like the Magma Spray where it's like a burn spell and an exile type effect, and it's just something that's kind of unusual for blue. And so I've seen a little bit of discussion here as to not only the why aspect from people like me, but also too of like why blue? Like why blue? Why a Merfolk?
Yeah.
We'll just have lots of questions.
I appreciate that. And it is the weirdness. Well, first of all, this whole set's weird.
This whole set's very strange.
And we'll talk a little bit more about it.
Development looking.
Super development heavy.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah, but to have it's a Merfolk, so it does go into the Merfolk deck. I think it's a sideboard card. Who knows if it's any good versus Sneak and Show? People are saying it's not, which I certainly believe could be the truth. You can pitch it to Force of Will, which always matters in formats like that, and maybe you'll do some good hate. I don't know.
And it's Aether Vialable. I mean, this is no joke. Like, Aether Vial is not always that dangerous on one if you're a Dredge player or a Living End player, and so you can go off. But this is definitely something that you're going to have to keep in the back of your mind from now on. I definitely want to give a quick shout out. Recently, the professor had a thread on YouTube about Magic content creators who hadn't received preview cards, and I think that this is the first. I could be mistaken here, but this card was the first preview card from Strictly Better MTG on YouTube, who is another excellent YouTube content creator for Magic, so you can go check them out as well. and they had the honor of previewing this one for one of their I forget what their series is called, but it had something to do with tournament Magic and being really spike driven, and this is absolutely a real spiky Magic card.
It's super spiky. Reuben, speaking of super spiky weird development cards, what would you like to talk about?
I got a couple cards I'm interested in talking about. The first one I want to talk about was a card that caused a lot of, I'm going to say, consternation, like another of what is going on in people's brains. Like, how is this a card that got printed? So I want to talk about Alpine Moon. Now, Alpine Moon is a 1 red mana enchantment. It's a rare from M19. As it enters the battlefield, choose a non-basic land card name. Great. Lands your opponents control with the chosen name lose all land types and abilities, and they gain tap, add 1 mana of any color. This is a weirdo. A very specific Blood Moon or Blood Sun or Back to Basics style effect to be able to shut off 1 card. The real interesting thing to me, in addition to the fact that, yes, it does shut off Urza lands, because it changes the card type, even though you choose the card name, and the card type on, for example, Urza's Tower is Urza's Tower, and so it does, in fact, shut off Tron. Guys, let's get the rules straight here. But it's also it's asymmetrical. So one of the uses of this card that I can foresee is in the Jeskai control mirror in Modern, naming Celestial Colonnade, so that your colonnades continue to work and your opponents are shut off. There are other corner case scenarios of things like that. For example, you can play Alpine Moon in the sideboard of your Valakut Scapeshift decks to play against opposing Scapeshifts or opposing colonnades or things like that as well. I just think it's a really interesting sideboard card. At 1 mana, it does not go in the Chalice of the Void decks that had been popping up in popularity alongside Blood Moon, but I think that, whenever you have the word moon or the word blood in a red enchantment and it does something like this, you have to at least pay a little bit of attention to it.
And I swear to God, if I see this in Vintage, I am covering someone's car in crapped singles. Don't pick it. Don't name Bazaar. Don't do it.
It's proactive. It's nice that you can literally be like, okay, your dredge, I sideboarded it in, turn 1, Bazaar, go. Like,
right. Or in Legacy, if you're playing against lands, you can name Thespian Stage. Like, there's a lot of interesting things that you can do with this. You can cut off your opponent's wastelands. You can cut off your opponent's Caracases if you're playing Sneak and Show, things like that. Just a lot of interesting stuff. Not to mention your utility lands like Ghost Quarter or Gavany Township. So I think that this is definitely an interesting card.
M19 is like, if you remember, probably
there's a lot of words. There's a lot of words on the cards in M19.
Yeah, I mean, I think around a year ago we were just like begging for hate cards, and Wizards like, oh, you want hate cards, huh?
Yeah.
All right then, challenge accepted.
Like during Origins Standard, when everyone was like, "Where's Pithing Needle? Where's Tormod's Crypt to deal with these Rally the Ancestors deck?" And then they were like, "Oh, I see. The fire hose was turned off. What you wanted was the fire hose turned 100% on, flooding your entire face." And they sort of did that a little bit.
Also, your basement.
Also, your basement.
Reuben, what's your second card?
Speaking of flooding your basement, let's talk about everybody's favorite big titty goth GF. Isareth the Awakening. Oh, I certainly did. This is where we're at, people. All right, the internet wants it. This is nothing. If Elon Musk wants to date Grimes, then darn it, I'm gonna date Isareth the Awakener. I'm ready for it. For Liliana with 2 C's. At the end of the thick.
Oh my
so
God.
Isareth the Awakener is a colorless black legendary creature, human goth wizard, who is a 3/3 with Death Touch. Whenever Isareth the Awakener attacks, you may pay X. When you do, return target creature card with converted mana cost X from your graveyard to the battlefield with a corpse counter on it. If that creature would leave the battlefield, exile it instead of putting it anywhere else. 3/3 for 3 with Death Touch, already really good. At rare, being able to get this ability to bring stuff back from your graveyard, we'd already talked about the Stitcher's Apprentice, or the 1/1 for 1 that puts 3 into your graveyard. Obviously, filling up your graveyard with additional zombies with our new Liliana as well. interesting way to pay and get stuff back. Obviously, you can combo this with things like Solemnity to not even get the corpse counters, or Blink the creature to get rid of the corpse counters. But those are corner case, and you don't need to combo with Isareth to make her good. Isareth is going to be able to bring back your early traded 2/2s for 2 or your Diregraph Ghouls or things like that. Unfortunately, not having First Strike means that this particular 3/3 for 3 does not trade with another 3/3 for 3 in the format named Goblin Chain Whirler. But that means that they can't be attacking with theirs. So if they go Chain Whirler and you go Isareth, and then they attack you, you can pretty much attack with your Isareth with impunity a lot of the time, getting back one of your already deceased zombies. And so I'm definitely here for this card. I think it actually has a chance to do something.
Yeah, shout out to Jason Rainville, the artist who drew this card, or who created this card. He posted a really good picture on Twitter with it, and kind of talked about how this was really Cynthia Shepard's baby, and how she had a certain vision for it that he initially wasn't really able to deliver on, but eventually he got on the right track, and this is what it came up with. And if you look really closely, you can see almost like a wake-up bell. You can see what appears to be a pick. Like if you remember back, if you ever studied Egyptian mythology and mummification, there's the pick that they kind of like pick your brains out with, like that's kind of in her hand. And the bird is as the word, and just everything about this card is delicious, and I love it, and it just makes for a nice cosplay opportunity. Like just I saw a lot of women on my Twitter feed who were like, I would totally dress up like this, and God bless them.
Yeah, there's also the fact that she is a wizard, and so Naru Meha makes her a 4/4, being able to get past a lot of those damages and a lot of those 3/3s. And so if there's a blue-black wizard deck out there, Isareth, because Isareth doesn't need to go into any sort of tribal strategy. She's just good by herself.
Now, what's that dragon back in the day called Rith the Awakener?
Rith the Awakener. Okay,
because when I first saw this, right, but when I first saw that, I was like, is there something, am I missing something here? A correlation? Yeah. And
well, we have the Elder Dragons. We have the Elder Dragons in this set, and Rith was not one of the Elder Dragons, but instead was one of the primeval dragons during the invasion story arc. And of course, Brian Kibler did well with that at his breakout performance Pro Tour. But yeah, that's a definite, especially with the last name, the Awakener. Maybe there's a family resemblance.
Put on the tinfoil hats, everybody.
That's right. Put on the tinfoil hats, and also put on the strapless black dress and the bird
hat. Your tinfoil bird.
That's right.
The goth girlfriend is here to stay.
Yep.
All right. So I highlighted a couple cards, mainly because they're weird. And I appreciate that. I think it's cool that you can have a Magic set that, like, at common and uncommon, is doing very standard New World Order, bread and butter Magic cards, if you will. And at Rare and Mythic, it's like, whatever, $30 Mythic here, $50 Mythic there, some craziness that does weird stuff. And some of the weirdest, if not the weirdest that I've seen so far, is Amulet of Safekeeping. This card is so strange. It is a 2 generic mana rare artifact. Whenever you become the target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, counter that spell or ability unless its controller pays 1 generic mana. Creature tokens get -1/-0. So I don't know how afraid Wizards were of token decks, but they were really seriously afraid. You have Chain Whirler, you got the new Black Horse, first of all, Horse Tribal, and then you have this thing, which is just like
like a dark horse.
Holds all the creature tokens forever, because if they're any good, we can't let them be good. Llanowar Elves is unplayable these days. Right. Anything with 1 toughness just has a huge mark on its back. Good luck actually resolving or playing much of any of it.
Well, someone even brought that up in terms of the graveyard hate. Like, not only do we have the Mistcaller, but they also have this 1/1 Tormod's Crypt on a stick that's basically a flyer. 2/1. And so somebody on Twitter was like, you have to wonder, like, what's coming down the pipe where they felt the need to, like, do this. And so we're either... Yeah. So we could be getting some...
I apologize. I cut you off.
It's okay. I was just going to say, so we could be looking at some really great, and tokens tend to be more of a Celestia thing, so maybe this is a nod to something coming down the pipe in Ravnica, along with Dead Things, where they're giving us the graveyard hate now, they're giving us the token hate now, but you have to wonder, because if you look at, like, the current metagame, it's just not here.
I was going to say that it's got to make you feel a little bit warm inside, Erin, that there's this much grave hate now, that there's got to be something awesome coming down the pike, right? Like it's got to be like if they're printing these, boy howdy, Wizards, you're setting the table. There better be a nice dinner coming. You know what I mean? As for Amulet of Safekeeping, this is very similar to Damping Sphere in that it is a 2-mana artifact that is hosing 2 different strategies. They sort of stapled 2 different effects for 2 different decks onto this one amulet. It's a really good stopgap against Scapeshift, against Lantern, against Burn, against most discard, things like Freebooter and the Mardu decks. This thing it has a lot of potential in addition to being able to host stuff like not just Storm, but also any token strategies. So both halves of Empty the Warrens, whether you play this before or after Empty becomes resolved. So definitely a really cool card. This is another development one, though. I mean, you can definitely see that it seemed like a lot of what was going on here was like they had a lot of leeway late in development to be able to put a lot of these really corner case, like you said earlier, Evan, scalpels into place here in M19.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Sorry. I was just gonna say it's been. I've seen a good number of talk, going back to tinfoil talk about how some people are speculating that these really niche kind of sideboard cards might be paving the way for possibly some unbannings or maybe even some bannings. Like there were people going, well, we're getting all of this land hate all of a sudden. Does that mean like a Blood Moon ban is coming now that we're getting Alpine Moon and Damping Sphere and things like that? And so that's something I've seen. I've also seen people talk about the there's a possibility maybe like a preordain unban or a ponder unbanned if they're going after Storm a lot more aggressively, cards that would benefit from these unbans, making sure that they keep those decks down. And so that's been some chatter I've been seeing as well.
Yeah, and it's not like this shuts down the Storm deck forever. Storm decks have worked through all sorts of hate, Leyline of Sanctity and so on. Like
every time there's a Storm hate card and everyone's like, oh, this is the death of Storm, Storm players are like, we still have Echoing Truth, everyone. calm down. Yeah. We'll be okay.
Yeah. Right. Nice cyber. Oh, you got 2 of them out. Oh, that's cool. They all go back. That's cool how that works. The other card I had highlighted here is Mirror Image, which isn't weird. I just thought it was really sweet because it's one of the cheapest clones ever, Phantasmal Image aside. It is a blue and 2 generic mana for an uncommon Shapeshifter, a 0/0 of course, that you may have Mirror Image enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature you control. So that is an incredibly cheap clone. I've never seen anything pushed that hard, and again, that has no real drawback. It doesn't have when you target it, you sacrifice it. It's just a copy of your best creature.
Right, so this one lets you go infinite with Hostagetaker, as opposed to the Phantasmal Image, which would have died with the Speller Ability effect.
Right.
Also added to the list of cards with crossover names between Dungeons and Dragons, Magic, and Hearthstone. We got our Magic Mirror Image now. So that's a cool one to add to that list. We're up to about 45 on all 3 names. This one having a much different effect. 3 mana is very cheap for this effect. Extremely cheap for this effect.
Yeah, this thing is like an amazing uncommon to draft.
Yeah, and the fact that it's uncommon is kind of unbelievable too. Like clones historically have always been rare.
Yeah.
Going all the way back to the original. I can't for the life of me remember the last uncommon clone effect. This is just an incredibly interesting direction that they pushed stuff in, because you don't see it at uncommon, you don't see it at 3 mana. I don't know what to make of this. I think that it could be incredibly potent.
Yeah, I mean, and note that this is like the reason it's 3 mana, and it only targets your creatures, doesn't target your opponent's creatures, which is fine. But again, that to me is not that much of a drawback. It's literally another copy of your best thing.
Yep.
Which is
and this also slots nicely into the God's Pharaoh's Gifts decks that are using Vizier of Many Faces and Combat Celebrant to go infinite. You have extra copies of Clone if you want them now, and so that's a big deal.
Yeah, which is great. So that said, that was really cool. So GP Vegas, we're back from it. I carried the sickness all the way to Florida.
Hence the name of the show.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to know, and this is something I heard from a few different people at Wizards, not naming names of course, but it was interesting to me that they had mentioned, we were talking about Ravnica, right? And like Ravnica is really sweet and really excited for it and stuff. And they said, well, we were a little surprised at there being some actual negative feedback on the Ravnica announcement. Yeah. And I was like, guys, what did you do last time? You had a big set, and a turd. And you know what?
Did you tell them that?
Not in so many words.
In so many words, yeah.
Not in so many words, but turd. And like, we're kind of like, we're here to like big set, and then the last big set. And I hope they kill it. You know, I hope it's gangbusters. I hope it's fantastic. I've heard good things. That's awesome. It was just really interesting to me that they're like, you know, wow, it wasn't 100% awesome. It's like, yeah, because you left the last one on such a sour note. Yeah, RTR was cool and Gatecrash was fine, but like Dragon's Maze it didn't even have a dragon.
Well, that one they made such a point about how they were done with that format, with that setup. They were like, all right, you guys, you know, especially because Dominaria, if there was a set you were going to do that for, it should have been Dominaria. Like, there was so much you could have done with that. And they made such a big to-do about the fact that Dominaria was self-contained, that we were only getting the one set. And people were going, well, wait a minute, you told us we couldn't with this set that we really, really wanted. And then you turned around and did the exact opposite. Like, that doesn't really curl all the way over. And so, yeah, I get why people were a little funny about it.
Right. And for what it's worth, if Dominaria shows you what happens when they distill a set and an expansion to just one set, I mean, come on. It was amazing.
Yeah,
it still is amazing.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm comfortable calling Dominaria the best limited set of all time.
I am pretty comfortable with that at this point too.
I've played Innistrad, and even recently, because they had the flashback drafts, which I played. I played the Innistrad, I played RGD, you know, I played ROE, like Rise of the Eldrazi. All of those are good, fantastic formats, honestly. But like Dominaria, everything is viable. All the color combinations. Like there's play, the commons kill the mythic rares, all that stuff. It's there, it's fantastic.
Absolutely.
And I love every minute of it. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. Obviously, I hope the new Ravnicas are great. It's funny to me. They're just like, we couldn't see it coming at all. I'm like, really?
The fact that they couldn't see it coming is pretty stupid. You know, first of all, everyone's going to complain about everything. It's Magic the Gathering. That's how it works. But specifically in this case, when the parallels are so clear that, you know, they said we're going away from the 3-set blocks, and then we got a 3-set block. When we've had 2 3-set blocks of Ravnica before, and the last trip there was Dragon's Maze. That should have been a thing that they saw coming, even if it was only 2 sets. It would have been less so, but the parallel is so clear.
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
And they're doing that like Avengers thing where they're like, we can't tell you the name of the 3rd set because it gives away plot points for the first. I'm like, all right, whatever. There were some other...
Whatever, sure.
It's fine. There were some other GP Vegas musings. Reuben, you had some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start out with the beta draft, everybody. Won by hometown hero, Vegas represent, Pro Tour Born of the Gods top 8 competitor Tim Rivera took down the beta draft with the only playable deck at the table. Beta was not designed for this newfangled thing called Limited. There were I think they opened Domain in one of the booster packs. They had one of each of the 5 basic lands in one of the booster packs, and that ain't good drafting. It was also Rochester. Yeah. Which was interesting because I don't think that correct me if I'm wrong, I've never seen a Rochester draft live streamed to Twitch before, period.
I think that's right.
Which was amazing, considering that a lot of these limited Pro Tour top 8s and Pro Tour wins that are legend at this point from back in the day, Kai and Phoenix Foundation, Huey Jensen's win at Pro Tour Boston with Matt Lindy and Brock Parker, those are legend at this point. Those were Rochester tournaments. And so it's definitely interesting to see it on camera. Honestly, Rochester's great for camera. It's really interesting.
It was.
Over a traditional draft, I think. And so if you were to do a limited Pro Tour again, you could do Rochester because that's fun to watch. There's interesting table dynamics. There's cool facial expressions happening. There's that reading and tells thing that you have with live poker. I actually found it fascinating. Yeah. On top of the fact that, oh, by the way, we opened a beta Underground Sea, a beta Time Walk, a beta Mox Emerald, and we opened did we open a beta Lotus?
No. But I appreciate that 2/3 of those cards went to Ben Stark.
Yeah, the hype for this was unreal, and kudos to Wizards for cluing in and deciding to stream it, because it didn't sound like that was the initial plan, but it was only after the social media was like, you've got to do this, like we need to see this, and luckily they were able to pull something together on short notice and give people what they wanted. And I was in the chat doing some moderation, and at one point we had 23,000 people for the draft, like
watching a draft, not even a game.
For the draft. They were there for that draft, and the hype was palpable, and it was so entertaining. It was so fun to watch. It brought people together in a way that I haven't seen in a while. People who don't even, like, I'm not even a limited person, and I was completely hooked on this. And I saw a lot of familiar names in the chat. It was just such a bonding moment. And then just having Paul Rietzel, who had a surprising amount of knowledge of this. It was him and Aaron Forsythe and BDM.
And this is something I've been harping on for coverage for a while, and I know a lot of my other coverage curmudgeons out there, hashtag coverage curmudgeons, such as AJ Soccer, have been on this for a while, which is get an expert in the booth every round, every single round. Get someone like Paul Rietzel there all the time, because you're missing something when you don't. And I mean, I love folks like Marshall and Maria, but you're missing something when you don't have an LSV, when you don't have a Brian Kibler, when you don't have a Paul Rietzel in the booth. And I thought that he added just so much.
Also, having Aaron around was really nice, because he was able to give us those stories. And even Randy Buehler was there kind of doing like side. It wasn't like he wasn't officially there, but he was definitely giving off. He was tweeting, factoids and trivia and things like that. And so, to see people like that who were there for that format and there for those cards, it just kind of felt like, you're gathering around, Gramp on the rocking chair, no shade, but just, telling those stories of like, what was it like back then? And, things like circles of protection and pestilence and
the rail, the rail behind the coverage booth was a murderer's row of not just Magic celebrities, but celebrities. Like creative director for Dungeons and Dragons, Nathan Stewart, was there. Third all-time money winner in live poker tournament earnings, Justin Bonomo, was there. In addition to hashtag Praiseworth Wolpert. In addition to Brian Kibler, Tom Martell, your usual Murderer's Row suspects, watching their friends in the top 8. There was obviously the huge all-star lineup of Channel Fireball pros that made the top 8 as well, in addition to a couple of YouTube folks in the Magic community, such as Big Human, as noted in the chat. There was a lot of interesting, fun, exciting, unique things about this draft that you just don't get to see normally. I'm really interested to see what they try to do now that they've had this feedback of 23,000 live viewers. Now that we've had this feedback of seeing that Rochester drafting is interesting and fun to watch live. We have one scheduled for Gen Con during the Pro Tour, all right? And we don't right now have any plans to stream it.
Well, I think they do. Well, first of all, when I first heard about it not being streamed, I 100% was like, Wizards, what are you doing? Seriously, you're opening 24 beta packs? You don't want to show the world that? That's insane. So kudos to them for fixing it immediately. Slops for not seeing that immediately, but it's fine. Whatever. They fixed the problem, which is cool. I mean, it was just
in the end, they did it right.
Yeah, it was just one of the most unique experiences I've ever seen, just as a Magic player. Like, literally, they opened 3 dual lands, they opened Power, they opened a Time Vault. Like, all of this stuff was real. They had it, they were opening with gloves, which is another thing I advocated for, which I thought was great. I hope every single person who got a big money card, like Wheel of Fortune or whatever, go get those things graded. Like, this is your chance to get it packed fresh into a Beckett or whatever plastic shell, so you can have it that way. These are incredible sort of pieces of Magic history, honestly.
Absolutely. And they also have the clout of being like the stamped foil Tarmogoyf from Pascal Maynard, where we saw the card come out of the box. We saw the card come out of the pack. So that has something else. It's not just that it's a pack fresh underground seat. Right. It's that pack fresh underground seat.
Yeah.
Now note that the other drafts around the world are going to be unlimited, except Gen Con, which is also going to be beta, which is, again, huge.
The schedule for which I have on the back of my shirt.
Right. And for those who are like, man, I wonder how much old product Wizards has. And I'm like, it's a lot. It's a lot. And not just like one warehouse here. I think there's a warehouse in Europe too.
I need to tell this quick little story. As I was hanging out next to the beta draft, I was saying goodbye to people because I needed to go to a showing with Penn and Teller with a couple of friends.
Guy.
Hashtag big timing. Mark Rosewater gave a pack of Unlimited to a little girl as I was walking by.
I saw several stories of people that were just randomly given like old packs. There was a group I saw that was doing a draft, and someone gave them, I think it was like a pack of Legends or something, and they were like, holy crap. And so I saw many stories of people that were just going about their business playing, EDH or playing something, and then out of nowhere someone goes, oh, here's an old pack, and people just losing their minds.
It was awesome. And also, another fun game is to watch the coverage of the beta draft and hear them say not one word about a dollar amount. I love that.
Yes.
Yep.
It was like, he just opened like $5,000, but we can't say it.
There were other words, though. They were like, this is such an exciting card.
A classic, iconic, could buy you a car card. That was pretty sweet.
Yep. Around it, yeah.
That was cool. All right. Want to touch real quickly here under Desperate Ravings. MTG Arena is very expensive, and I would argue way too expensive. There was a recent thread on Reddit which this person said, hey, I bought 90 packs out of every set of Standard. That's about $800, by the way. And they got something like 80% of everything in Standard or so, 80 to 85% of rares. And yeah, so, or 80% of the available cards rather. So that's pretty incredible, especially considering that they gave mini Kaladesh cards away for free. So let's keep that also in mind, because when they added Kaladesh, they gave you like a play set of all the commons, uncommons, 2 every rare and 1 every mythic or something, along with like a play set of the most played mythics and stuff, again, which is cool. But it just kind of illustrates that like this thing is very expensive still, and I can't look at any other game, Eternal, Elder Scrolls Online, any other, obviously Hearthstone, any of those options, and say Magic the Gathering Arena is the one that's worth not only just that money but even more money.
Yeah.
I mean, how much do you have to spend in order to get, an experience you're looking for?
There's nothing more to say at this point other than something's got to be fixed about it. I was very encouraged by the Arena team at Grand Prix Las Vegas. They were set up right next to one of the entrances, and they were all ears, listening to everyone that would talk to them. I saw them talking to some folks that I think are very good people to talk to in terms of monetization and their history with online card games such as Hearthstone and such as Eternal. And so I'm very excited for the future if they take those into consideration. But all I can say is that the team that was there was very clearly interested and not just giving lip service to hearing the opinions of the community. And so hopefully it will get fixed in a way that we find acceptable.
I would like to think that this is just sort of, I haven't really played it very much, but I would like to think that this is, a work in progress, and that there's sort of how in the old time spy movies, you get the person who was trying to crack the code of the safe, and they'd put like the stethoscope up to the safe and like turn the knob. Like I imagine that's kind of what they're doing with the economy, is just trying to find the right, tweaking the knob, and I imagine they'll find it soon. I just don't think they.
Sorry.
I just hope they find it soon.
It just feels like they're trying their hardest to make this wild card thing work, and everyone just rails about how difficult it is to work with them. Because I saw another thread where it was like, man, I wish I could build my deck that needs all these rares and I have 6 mythic wild cards doing nothing. And that was literally one of my experiences at one point. I was like, wow, I need a play set of this rare vampire or whatever. I was trying to build a vampire deck, but all I had was mythic wild cards, and it was weirdly frustrating that I could make as many planeswalkers as I wanted, but I can't actually get the cards I'm looking for to finish my deck. It's just really strange.
All you need is a fork, and all you got is a spoon or whatever. This is ironic,
isn't it?
Don't you think?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Rain on your wedding day, buddy. All right. So, Reuben, can you tell us about the pre-release coming up?
Absolutely. So just a scant 10 days ago, we had our last pre-release, or rather, not pre-release, our pre-official showdown event that is before the release of the set, but isn't a pre-release. Whatever, you get what I'm making fun of. Anyway, so this one's actually a pre-release with loading, ready, run this weekend. And the lineup this time around is the MTG streamer, the Amy Zillion. She's actually Amazonian on Twitch. She's an MTG streamer. The Magic artist Victor Adame, Aaron Campbell, you're a big fan of, I'm sure.
See you, Poppy.
Typically what happens with these a lot, it seems that there's a little bit of a theme that they try to do, which is you get like an MTG personality who's known for their content, you get an MTG personality who's known for their impact on the game, and then you get a big a big name with a big following. And this time around, it's the Twitch broadcaster and Hearthstone streamer Noxious, who's the headliner, who I know from a lot of those big Hearthstone World Championship style events. And also the fourth, typically, always, is someone from within Wizards of the Coast, and this time is no exception. Magic brand manager Matthew Danner will be joining the usual lineup of Graham, Kathleen, Cameron, and Adam.
Adam.
He was at Vegas. I don't know if you saw him, but he was there. Yeah, you saw him? All right, sure.
Man, me and Matt Danner go back a ways.
Yeah,
we were hanging out back in the day. For Pro Tour Amsterdam, for example, I roomed with him, which was a thing because I was still doing some contract work for Wizards at the time. He is good people, and I'm excited that he's still there and he's still having fun. And I got to talk to him for a minute and just be like, you still enjoying what you do? And he's like, absolutely. And I'm like, that is awesome. And all I really want for my friends, of course, is just for them to be happy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay, so I'm going to turn the corner to the finisher.
Ooh.
Well, you have to do a giveaway first.
But I have to do a giveaway, and I screwed it up.
Just don't give him your bug. Don't give him your cold.
I won't do that.
Okay.
Okay, so let me actually.
While you're doing that, I'm going to give my shout out real quick. I know that folks had been asking about when the Weatherlight thing was going to be online.
Please do.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, Channel Fireball is uploading that as we speak to the YouTube. So the D&D panel that I hosted alongside cosplayers Tappy Toe Claus and Ashlyn Rose, as well as content producers Ninox Morepork, a.k.a. Michelle Rapp, who's one of the co-hosts of the Lorgoyfs podcast, Cameron Louder, who you'll see in the pre-release next weekend, who's part of the Loading Ready Run team. Our buddy Stibbs, the content manager for TCG Player, was kind enough to step in as our Slimefoot after, of course, Wedge fell injured, I should say, which we talked about at length during the live show a couple days ago. But of course, another big story from the week is Wedge's GoFundMe, and of course, all the love and appreciation that he's having. He is feeling much better. The doctors are saying that there is a schedule for his release in the near future, which is incredible considering he had surgery on Sunday. And of course, the last two members I have to point out are the two I went to the Penn and Teller show with, who are Jordan Pridgeon and Gaurav Galati of the Saving Throw Show Network. And speaking of Saving Throw Show, we're going to try to broadcast Board the Weatherlight live streamed to Twitch at twitch.tv/Saving Throw Show this Friday around 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, so you guys can watch it live with the Twitch audience, and hopefully we'll be able to pull that one off. That's going to go right into their hit show. They do their big Friday show called Wild Cards that weekend.
All right, so we have a winner for our $50 gift certificate to CoolStuffInc.com. Mr. Zachary L. from Metuchen, I think this is, or Metuchen, New Jersey, is the winner. So please hit us up on one of our social media channels, and we will provide you your magical gift certificate code so you can get $50 of whatever you like from CoolStuffInc.com.
Metuchen is where Menlo Park is. Metuchen's where Thomas Edison worked, right?
I don't know.
Pretty sure.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I'm a huge nerd, so obviously I have your Edison fact. Edison.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. So congrats, Zachary, for that. And turn the corner to the finisher, as it were. This week, Mr. Orange, that would be myself, went and got himself a case of the Touched by Death after receiving Liliana Untouched by Death as the official Magic Mike's preview. #something hail corporate. As a result, we did not record our Top 10s episode this week, and I apologize for that. And since both Reuben and Erin are also still behind on their beauty rest, and we had our live show a scant 4 days ago, this week's live episode has a certain sleepy element to it, rather than the usual dopey, grumpy, and all the other relevant dwarfs typically associated with the show. So put on a happy face and tell me, once we're better rested and some of us are recovered from the plague, what thing are you looking forward to in next week's high-energy episode of Magic Mike's, Erin?
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to having some more energy and passion next week to go after Wizards of the Coast For the blatant disrespect of Mistcaller and Contrite Cleric, if I see Tormod's Crypt on this spoiler, I'm skipping Allie Medwin's wedding, just saying. Because I know she's responsible for this. She's sitting in all those board meetings, and she's like, got you, Campbell. I got you. Yeah.
I'm coming for you, Arn Anderson.
I'm coming for you. And yeah.
Wow. Reuben.
With the Four Horsemen reference? Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to seeing some more of the story and going deep with you all. After Magic Origins, this feels like Magic Nemesises and going deep on all of the big villains herein. Elder Dragons, the return of Sarkhan, and of course, the biggest, baddest, evilest guy of them all, the Buy-A-Box promo.
That's the real villain. That's
you have to say
real enemy.
Reuben, I do have to say something. You mentioned Four Horsemen.
Yeah.
One of my friends plays Four Horsemen in Legacy, and he's really excited about the Desecrated Tomb.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yes. He's testing, baby.
Great. Lovely.
Well,
if there's any deck that Wizards of the Coast and the Judge community loves, it's the Four Horsemen.
Once I'm healthy and back up to snuff, I'm really hoping to go heavy into the most important cycle in core M19, the cycle of My Little Pony Uncommons, especially with the recent release of Battle Bond and the Team Pro Tour coming up, because as you know, friendship is magic.
Aww.
Teamwork is magic, for sure.
It certainly is. We want to give a quick shout out to our subscribers, our new subscribers, and our returning subscribers.
Yep, I have them written down if you don't.
OZG82889 has subscribed via Prime. Thank you very much. Chalisadria, I believe it is. Has subscribed. Thank you very much for that. Megaeus1 gave us 100 bits, which is appreciated. Blazing Disciple also subscribed, which is great. Pumpkin Bond gave us some bits. The Maverick Girl has resubscribed for 2 months. 99 Problems and Twitch Ain't One also resubscribed for 2 months, including Mr. Lubufu, who I got to meet in GP Vegas, who was a wonderful human being who helped us out during the live show.
Yeah, he's not only a moderator in the chat, he was our live moderator for our live show in Vegas. That was very nice.
It's true. Thank you to
more bits
for all them bits. JDubs 2008 Rave MTG with 200 bits, which is fantastic. Thank you guys so very, very much. You are awesome, and I apologize for being so much under the weather. But
and more Croft with more bits.
Oh my goodness, they're get well bits,
letting
Evan.
Go to bed.
They're the
get well bits.
They're the I'm gonna go to sleep bits and stuff. As soon as
they're
possible.
They're the big bitty goth GFs.
My God, we made it happen, and I appreciate that. All right, so that ends the live episode of Magic Mics. Thank you for joining us here. Thank you for joining us here to discuss all
tag
things
out,
magic.
Okay.
Reuben, can you take the rest of it there?
Yeah, sure. All right, I'll do it in my best Evan Irwin. It's a live Evan Irwin. Well, that ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thank you for joining us here to discuss all the things magic. Thank you, Wait, which way do I point?
You were right, that way.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Evan.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Get some sleep.
I will.
I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, our co-sponsor, CardHoarder.com, my co-hosts, Aaron Campbell and Evan Irwin. You guys for watching, and hope you support us at patreon.com/magicmics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, and do everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online at twitch.tv/magicmics, on Twitter at magicmicescast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Talk to us privately at magicmicspodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at magicmicspodcast@libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.